RC, thank you, thank you.
You're
I know.
welcome.
I know that you're here for a wedding.
Ah, yeah.
Oh my God.
Big celebration.
Big celebration. So listen, I don't know you. I barely know anything about HO slot cars, and I learned about your company literally 3 weeks ago. So you're here because I know that you're important. You're a big deal in this community, and I need to learn more about HO. So that's the main reason that you're here.
Okay.
Tell me more about Wizzard.
Wizzard started as a real small company. Mainly about racing to start with. We tried to. The parents started the company,
Okay.
and Dad's disabled. Just a fun way for him to kind of keep himself going. We had many growing pains in the whole thing. It was. My dad likes to help people.
Okay.
Sometimes when you help people, when you're in business, it's really bad for you.
Oh yeah.
So there's some times when, tidbits of information get out that shouldn't get out. And when you're in racing, all that stuff matters, but you want kind of good, friendly competition. So we've always been about good, friendly competition, trying to help everybody. Obviously, we want our products to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mainly what we're doing is with HO. HO racing in general has been around since the 60s, and we've had many nationals. There's been many rough patches in HO.
For me, it's a community hard to understand because you guys are kind of closed on your own forums and Facebook pages.
I think all slot car racing is. It's all kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, because
maybe it's why maybe I'm only.
Yeah, we've had. We actually had discussions internally about working on 32nd scale products in the past.
Okay.
And one of the problems we had when and this was 10, 12 years ago when 32nd scale kind of started coming back.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems was there's no national...
Maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah,
well,
2009, 10, yeah.
Yeah, and the problem we had with trying to make racing products was every group in 32nd scale has their own set of rules, whereas HO has Hopra. We had another group at the time, but they were basically the same class subsets.
Okay.
So you could kind of generally, I know what kind of products you could make. With 32nd scale, you race on wood tracks, plastic tracks. You got 3 different brands of cars. They normally don't intermix them. You got different motors, and it's like, well, where do you start? And that was one thing that was kind of difficult to try and break into manufacturing parts for them for racing.
Yeah.
And that's nice about HO is that it's mainly streamlined.
And it's limited, right?
Yeah, it's limited to a point.
And I understand that Wizzard is focused on racing stuff.
Mainly now, yes. We came out with the first American-made race car.
Okay.
Which was the Patriot back in '97.
So, but that's like it's a limited space too. So that's based on a chassis. Probably the whole thing's on the chassis, right?
Right. Well, it's the chassis and the magnet designs are
Okay.
mainly Hopper and racing limits us with a stock motor that's the same shape. It's got to be a certain ohm rating, and that's the motor you got to use. You can design your motor magnets. We don't have a can.
Okay.
So you can design your motor magnets, and we have a magnetic rail, so the motor magnets interact with that. And we can design our traction magnets however we want.
But the motor magnets are also traction, right? So that's
they
why
can,
design
yes. You want a certain amount, but not too much.
But as far as I understand, the T-Jet is the one.
Well, the T-Jet's like what Rick races, and
But those are the T-Jets original from.
The T-Jets are the original HO scale slot car, yes.
Okay, and then you guys develop a chassis close to the dimensions of the T-Jet.
We created a chassis that took all the best numbers we could find off of the original T-Jets because there were like 18 molds, I think, that I've counted.
Okay, so 18 different molds for chassis.
Right. Like, they've got all different.
And what are the difference between them?
It was just they were trying to produce millions of them, and they just needed to pull that many to keep production up back in the 60s.
But the design is the same.
The design's the same,
different lots.
but different tolerances here and there, from when they made the molds.
Because of different batches, not because of different designs.
Right. It's the same chassis design.
And then you guys pick up all the 18 and say, look, let's do one.
Well, the problem, we were running out of chassis. We're close to it, of good ones, because a lot of them are warped, a lot of them... Every number
because the company went out of business too, right? So
and they were all made in the 60s, so they've been sitting in a box for 60 years now. And you get to the point where some of the guys who are new and trying to come up can't buy what they need, and all of a sudden the price is shot through the roof. Of
And if somebody finds in the garage a box full of chassis, there will be gold.
And there's guys that have boxes of them in their house they refuse to sell.
Still today.
Right. And they should sell them at this point, in my opinion, because I don't know if the market will ever get any better.
Well, now nobody's using the original ones. They're using stuff like...
the Fray, which is the big T-Jet race every year, gets 120-ish people.
Okay, that's a big one.
Their individual race, they have a team race and an individual race. The individual race is Aurora chassis, because they want to keep the original chassis. And the team race involves each team having 15 cars.
They have 5 more races to go, and that's it? If they want to keep the original...
I mean, the chassis, if you're only using one chassis, it'll last a long time, especially if you're only racing it once a year. Like what was happening before was these guys are racing them all in their clubs, and then by the time they get to the Fray, they're building a new car or a couple new cars, and they were using those for the team cars, and it was just wearing out parts and chassis. And then eventually, the guys that don't have nearly as much stock as somebody who just has them sitting in their basement, it's becoming unfair. So that was the WizJet kind of replaced that chassis, so that way you could just run that, and that was what we did with that. And it seems to be taking hold, but it kind of got released, and then COVID happened. Okay. So we really don't know. We actually haven't had a big Fray. We haven't had a Fray with the chassis yet because of COVID.
Okay. So you have this big gun holding this big gun to go to the...
Well, everybody's been using it. Everybody likes it. It's for the Fray. I don't really think. I mean, they're only allowing it in the team race because they want the original stuff, which is. I mean, you get 15 team cars, you get one individual car. And there's been a lot of, like, we're out of motors for original cars. Like, you can't find motors, so we actually had to go to other manufacturers for motors at this point, which they didn't want to do, but by necessity. I mean, I don't even make it, and I'm like, you kind of have to.
How much is the retail price for a motor for a T-Jet race?
If you unbalanced, untouched, it's $6-7.
Oh, okay.
They're not bad. Now, when you dynamically balance them and do all that stuff, then they get...
And there's people who do that? Or like...
I try to keep up with balancing, but I can't keep up. It's just not... Especially if those motors take so many different steps.
And who's the best person in the U.S. to make balancing those motors, to prepare those motors today?
There's 2 or 3 of us that balance motors regularly. Everybody's kind of
under... That's it for 120 people? Those guys are busy.
That's just for the race in California. They're all over, they're all over the place. I mean, they race Fray cars everywhere in the country. They even race them overseas.
As far as I learned, it's divided in 2 groups: the Hopra and the Fray one.
Yeah, so the Hopra is mainly magnet cars. Okay. The really fast, 3 seconds every 60 feet.
That is in Chicago, right?
And it's mainly, so the magnet car contingent is mainly northeast, like Midwest to northeast. We got guys all over the country, obviously, but the main groups are always in that area. Yeah.
And then you have the non-magnet, which is the Fray.
Yeah, the T-Jets, Fray. There's some other cars.
But it's completely non-magnet, or the magnet from the motor?
We do get some traction. From the motor,
right?
We get like 8 grams of downforce on the track from the motor magnets in the Fray car. Whereas a magnet car, you're getting 150.
So on the Fray, the game is on the tires.
It's tires.
If the chassis is the original one. Chassis.
But they peen the holes on the chassis. They tighten the tolerances up. I'm sure you saw the amount of lash. I know I saw a little bit of your breakdown of Rick's car. Where there was no lash in the gearing. Like that comes from his Fray racing. From we know that it doesn't necessarily make your car go faster, but it makes your gears last longer.
Okay. Yeah.
So tightening up so the axles don't have slop in them can really help. It helps your corner, because if the tires can go sideways left and right when you're going in a corner, the car's not turning. So and making sure everything's perfect. I mean, they've got 3 ginormous brass gears on top.
Perfect, and in a very small.
Well, they got 3 gigantic brass gears on top that are heavy, and if they're crooked at all, it creates noise, which takes away speed, which takes away handling. And that's a high weight point. They do a lot of body lowering and weight. They're allowed to trim the bodies as much as they want to.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of little things you can do to gain an advantage there. And the tires are a thing, but most of us mainly run the same kind of tires.
So most of that scene is in their garages, like people with tracks inside of their homes, not raceways and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just gotten too expensive for anybody to have a shop.
And then once a year, they get together and race.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why you have 120 people. Everybody was just waiting for that
it's
date.
like, I mean, the phrase turned into a vacation for guys like me. You just go up, see all your friends. You go.
And where is it? Is it always in the same location?
It's always in the same location.
Where is it?
Ferndale.
Okay.
Way up north. A guy, Richard Phillips, he owns 10 tracks.
Okay.
And they just rent a hall and they throw everybody in there and it's just a good time. Everybody's there. I mean, almost everybody shows up Tuesday.
And that's the race that Rick won a couple months ago, right?
Yeah. Well, no, he won the Hopper Nats a couple months ago. The Fray hasn't happened in a couple of years.
Okay.
But he's won the Fray.
What do you have there?
Yeah, he's won the Fray.
It's the face of Rick.
It's the face
Five
of Rick.
times.
5 times. In case you forget.
So you guys are one of the main sponsors of Rick, right? Not only friends, because you're here for his wedding.
I'm here for his wedding.
And I learned that there's only 4 people invited. So
Yeah,
you might be very special. That's what he told me. There's only 4 people invited. 2 are family.
My dad, I think this was, I had gone to college, got another job, came back, started working again, and my dad invited Rick out because he met Rick at the Fray in like 2003.
Okay.
And it was like 2007 or 8, and I'm 23, 24, you know, young kid. And he says, "Oh, this guy Rick
So
Jocko."
how old are you?
Me? I turned 40 next week.
Okay, you're younger than me.
Barely. So my dad says, I invited this guy, Rick Jockman. He's a really good driver. I want you to help him out. He's going to give you a T-Jet to run. And I'm like, I've never heard of him. He's not any good.
Yeah.
And we actually hit it off very, very well. And he beat my face in with his own cars.
Yeah.
He gave me choice of his cars.
Like right now, I know that you just learned the track, but he was doing 6.0s. You were doing 6.2, 6.1s. Yeah. I went there. Max, I could take out that car was 6.1, so he's fast.
Yeah, he's fast. You know, I mean, normally we have every year. Every time we go to Boston. Sometimes they have the Nationals in Boston. They did this year. We race 24 scale cars on their big tracks, and they do have an IROC race, and I beat him every year. And it irritates him every year. And I just look at him like, I thought you were going to beat me this year. But everything we do is a competition that way.
Good.
We just get along really, really well, and it's just turned into this.
It's a friendship / sponsorship.
It's more
because I hear things.
It's more friendship, honestly, than it is sponsorship. I hear things
that sometimes he's in a race, and then you come up with a bag of tires, and the tires are not perfect, and this kind of stuff.
If I give him anything that's not perfect, I will never hit the end of it.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, but I mean, that's.
And are the tires that hard to find a good one? And you just put it and you see, and then just try.
There were years that we were trying to figure out why our tires weren't as good as other manufacturers, and a lot of it came down to the rim manufacturers. And if the rim was not perfectly centered on the hub, even if you cut the tire perfect on it, it still didn't run like it was perfect.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with, if the rim, the customer a lot of times can press the rim on crooked with the wrong tool or just pushing it on too fast.
Yeah.
And then, right. And a lot of that is learning curves, because with the Magnacar stuff where I came from, that wasn't really a big deal because you have so much magnet and crush, you didn't really feel it if it was off a 0.5 of an inch. But when you don't have downforce, you feel it. So it was a learning curve. We actually had really good tires, and then we had something bad happen in production, and we couldn't figure out why the tires weren't good. So I would send him tires after tires and just saying, are these good? Yes or no? And then finally we got to the point where almost every...
So now the relationship is friendship, sponsorship, but also development.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of just enjoying life now. I don't think he really does much development anymore. He just enjoys,
the racing.
We talk about development. We discuss things, but a lot of times it's,
Well, but let's come back a little bit more. Let me understand the beginning of this. So, Wizzard was started by your father. Mm-hmm. And what's his name?
Robert.
Yep. And like you,
Bob. He goes by Bob. He started it. Actually, my mother forced him to start it because he had a lathe and he was making parts.
And that was in the 80s or in the 90s?
It was 1989, I think was the first year. I was 7.
Okay, and what was the first product?
It was an independent front end set.
Okay.
And he was making them for...
And that's out of desperation because nobody could provide a good one.
Yeah, he had a relationship with BSRT at one point, and I guess he sent them to BSRT again, and I don't know something broke down between the two of them, and then Dad was making them on the East Coast for guys, and my mom said, "You're wasting all this money, and you could at least be making money, and you being hurt, we can sell the stuff."
Yeah.
And she kind of forced him to do that, forced him into starting the business, and then it's. I'm sure you deal with it here. Racing's fun when you see it every day, all day. There's days where you're just like, I just don't want to see it. I don't want to, and so for him, it turned into a job and not a hobby.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem. It's not a hobby anymore. It's a job, and then I try to race twice a year. I can race here. There's no good outcome racing here. If I win, of course he won. If I lost, how come he can lose?
Yeah.
So it's just no good outcome. So I try to race 1 or 2 times. We have a local club called the Far Out Club, which is pretty easy to set up. It's almost out of the box. So I have a couple cars for those, and sometimes I have a good agenda, and then I can go there and just race it, which is fun and fast, and the group is great. And I try to race a couple days at Buena Park or Piranha Raceway. A hard body and retro, and that's it. Like I could race more, but sometimes I just have to go to the whole thing, fix up the car, find out the rules, go to the dates, go to practice. It's just like more slot cars.
Well, and I've kind of done the same thing. When I go to a Hopper Nationals, I'll race T-Jets with Rick because that's just kind of what I've been into the last 10 years. But I mainly there helping people. I barely spend any time on my cars, and I made the main in a super stock race this year that I had no intention of trying to. I just threw my car on the track and it was good, and I went, oh, okay, and I made the main. Because sometimes there's just no good outcome. Like you said, if I go to if I dominate every race I go to, I'm the manufacturer. I'm taking all the special stuff. If I lose the race, then and then they're running another manufacturer's parts, then it's negative publicity. So it's a very tough situation. I mean, that's the only good thing about 30-second scale. There's really you guys are limited by what kind of car you run.
Yeah, that's true, but it's still like people get jealous, and especially we're a very small group. Like even worldwide, it's a small group. Kind of everybody know each other. If they don't know each other, they're connected to each other.
Right.
And one thing that I learned, especially because my father used to own a commercial racetrack in Brazil.
Okay.
Gossip kills.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Especially
people like to talk more than work. Yeah. And if they put the amount of energy that they put on talking shit about each other into the car.
And we've gone through. There are some guys who really want to be good and don't know how to be good, and don't want to ask the questions. They just think they should be, and that gets it's very hard to deal with some of those people sometimes.
Yeah, and there's another thing, which is talent. Like if you don't have it, like you can be a hobbyist, but like you cannot expect like good outcomes if you're not dedicated.
If you're not naturally talented, you've got to work really hard.
No, you can work really hard, and of course this hobby is about dedication. Like if you're racing, it's literally the amount of hours that you're going to put on that, and testing and trying new things, and come to the race with a kind of ready car, because a race car is never ready. But
I mean, yeah, for sure.
But then on the last, if you get to the main, and everybody's in the same level of preparation and dedication, it's just talent.
No, it's also how you can deal with nerves.
Yeah.
I know some guys who are great drivers, and you put them in a main, and they look to their left and their right, and they see who they're racing against, and they just fall apart. They don't fall apart. They just don't perform to their expectations.
Yeah.
And there's no good way to teach that. Like, it's just you can deal with the spotlight and seeing, like just the nerves, and it's a small group. If that guy would win, we'd all be happy for them, but it seems to hurt them more than help them when they look around and see who they're racing against, and it's somebody that they think they can't beat.
It's a special thing, right? They have like this very special group of people, of 4, 5, 6, 8 people over there racing. They're the best on the day. They're the best cars. Yeah. And everybody wants to see what's happening. And
honestly, anymore, most of us are all friends because it's such a small group.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a scary thing, is the average age of any slot car racer is getting old.
Yeah, that's the problem that we're facing here.
Yeah, I mean, I think all scales face it. 24 scale, 30-second HO, they're all facing the same problem, because when I was growing up, there were sets in Walmart, where you could just go buy a little racetrack for kids. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And
in the 60s, you used to buy slot cars out of pharmacies.
Right. And they had space for tracks.
Yeah.
The cost of a hobby shop for a 24 scale place is you can't. I don't think you can afford it in a major city anymore at all.
Yeah, look at this place.
But you're a small. You've got a racetrack, but you've got a lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes. You know, if
yeah.
you were mainly a raceway, there's no way you can survive.
No. That's the model. The way that we put the track here was after the store is success. Like you cannot like, okay, let's design a raceway. Actually, I want to try to bring people, raceway owners, and the main question is how do you make money? Because there's a saying here there's two kind of people who opens the raceways today, or he's filthy rich or he's crazy as hell. There's no other option to open a raceway. And the model that we have here, of course, is different. We have online sales. We had the online sales before we put the track, and the track is to support and
The
to
local
learn
scene,
and
right.
to learn, because every time that we have a race, we learn more about parts, we learn more about cars. So we're kind of pushing the technology and the development with the racing program with those 30, 40 people that we have here racing. And then I can order more, I can spread the word more, I can make more videos, I can sell good stuff.
Yeah, if you're giving out good advice, they're more likely to come back to you.
Yeah, because if I didn't have the racetrack, I was just going to be on my own knowledge.
Right, and you're just kind of guessing and just
Guessing
throwing parts at people.
and trying to guess even the market because everything's online. I don't know how many parts and pieces my competitor is selling. Here, not only I know how many I'm selling, but I know how many people are using and asking for.
Right.
And it's a fight because I could have this large amount of parts, so many brands. Not only the main manufacturers like Slotted or NSR, but we have like smaller ones like Black Arrow, Slotting Plus, all those people from Spain. We have Frankenslot, which is great from Germany, and they make great parts. But I need to show people that it works, and so I need to show people that they can be developed. Like we have Slot Invasion, which is German too. They made a new guide. Everybody uses their guide. And it was something that I learned because somebody picked it up in another store that was carrying before us. And I had to learn where to get it, talk to the representative here in the US. Okay, now we got the guides. We're selling hundreds of those because everybody likes it.
And we have major cottage industry issues in HO where, you know, you get these small guys that come along and make one little part and one little part and one little part. And it's hard to, like, for us, we have Lucky Bob with the Midwest, and he carries.
Is this the same Lucky Bob's that sells 124 scale stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He's one of the largest HO retailers. He probably is the largest HO retailer.
So
in the
he's a
country.
retailer, but he manufactures too.
He manufactures some stuff, not a lot.
Yeah, like jigs
like
and
jigs,
stuff like
and yeah, just some stuff he can make on his machinery, you know. And,
Okay.
But mainly
Is his name really Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
His name's Bob Dylan.
Okay.
Yeah, we deal with Bob all the time, and you know but you know he's one of the few guys that carries all that stuff.
I need to talk to him
Yeah.
because it's hard to find stuff from him.
Yeah, I mean,
I know that he deals with the distributors, but it's always short for us.
and his website's a pain.
Okay, it's from the 90s.
Yeah, I wish that's the one thing.
He's
he
very
could
lucky.
update. Yeah,
He's very
but
lucky.
everybody knows for HO racing, that's that if you need a part, you call Lucky Bob. You just call him and he'll know
Really?
if he has it. Yeah,
Okay.
He's very knowledgeable that way.
I know a guy.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things. Do I have it? No, but I know a guy who probably knows where to get it.
So he's the guy who is holding the stock for vintage stuff and.
I would assume so. Yeah. For vintage what?
No, I like seems to me like almost everything that you guys do are vintage. You're racing with chassis from the 60s.
Well, for the T-Jets.
Oh, okay.
He's really actually not into the T-Jet side of it. REH had the T-Jets for years and years and years. Bob Haynes
Have you been to REH?
I have not. We've dealt. I'm sure Mom and Dad have. They used to go to dinner with Bob,
Okay.
and at Track Owners Association shows and stuff like that, which don't exist anymore.
Yeah, it should be a good time, right? Like people dress it up, smoking,
Oh,
while having
yeah.
dinner. Yeah, hey Joe, I have new
The Track
Axles.
Owners Association shows were great. I remember going to them as a kid, and like Slick Seven, Parma, all the
Slick
guys
Seven,
were
Parma.
there.
I grew up racing Parma,
And
and I remember when they changed the end bell color to the pink one, and it was clearly fast. But in Brazil, like 90s, people, oh no, this is the Parma game. We're not racing that. So people get the Parma, change the end bell just to not race the pink one. Oh my god.
but it's like those are things that we don't have now without shops. That we can't. It's hard to gain traction in shops and gain customers, like new racers, because now it seems every scale is basically basement racers, and we have Peter Lantros up in Boston because he owns the Purple Mile from 24 scale.
Oh, that's
You know,
I need to go there. Like
I mean,
that's one of my my
it's
slot
a
car
great
racer
place to
bucket
go.
list.
It's a great place to go. And he's got all kinds of collectible stuff. You walk in.
So is the Purple Mile in good? Can you tell me? Like I know about the Purple Mile, but you can tell to the camera about the history about the Purple Mile.
I'm faster than Rick on the Purple Mile.
Okay, that's the most important thing. So the Purple Mile is a blue king with one more finger.
Yes, yeah, and
With
he's got an
literally
HO
with the-
scale and a 24 scale version.
Oh yeah, I heard about the HO, but the Purple Mile is literally a blue king with the middle finger.
Yep. And it's. I mean, the track's in good shape. I mean, I didn't actually had a race on, but Peter gave us some cars, and
they only made one, right?
I believe there were a couple.
Really,
I believe
was
there
made
were.
by American Raceways.
I thought there were two. I mean, I don't really know the history of the Purple Mile.
I believe. I of course I don't have a book here, but I believe it was made by a company called American Raceways here in California.
Yeah,
And the Purple Mile that you guys have there is the one that's supposed to, that started their life, its life here in San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have pictures of that store. It's like a huge store with the Purple Mile right in the middle, carpet all around.
And Peter's got 4 24 scales tracks and like 12 HO tracks set up.
That's in New York State, right?
That's in Boston.
Boston,
right outside of Boston. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a place that I need to go.
Yeah, I mean, it should be on your bucket list. I mean, he doesn't really have. I mean, he has races. You kind of have to get in touch. It's a small,
Okay.
But I mean, I'm sure if he knew you were coming, he'd open the shop up. He's actually.
Yeah, I learned about that. I heard about that, and I work for the Slot Car Museum too, which is something that you should stop by when you're leaving.
Sunday.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon?
I think I've got a 4:00 flight.
Okay, maybe you can figure out on Sunday morning if you don't get too
Lost
during the Saturday night wedding.
Gotta make sure the girlfriend's okay with it too.
Well, I don't know how often you come to California, but
I come out here every year for the fray, but that's the way up north.
Okay.
But I come out here about every 5 years and we just come out here and hang out with Rick a couple times.
Let's keep in touch, because if you can do I'm gonna talk to Scott to see if he can open the museum on Sunday morning. The museum it's inside of his garage, which is in front of his house, so it's inside of his property. So the only thing is he needs to be there.
Right.
You cannot just open the door. But it's a great place. There's no HO there. Actually, there's one HO, the AFX special edition for John Sucres, the one with the little Sucres license plate on it that we put it there. But it's a great place. Like you should, if you're enjoying that. The Track Owners Association, whatever dinner, you're gonna see a lot of stuff that you're very used to.
I mean, there was a time I was 10 at a Track Owners. They had a 24 scale track set up there, and they'd have an IROC race, and one person for each company represented. Okay. I was 10 and beat them all down.
That's good.
I was 6 lanes into the race, and they asked who was winning, and
nobody was racing. It was just people with catalogs.
I'm on a milk crate. Right, so I can see the track.
See the whole thing.
I'm on a milk crate, and Stu Coford was there.
Okay.
Paul Pfeiffer was there. They're all in the race, right? And they say,
Paul Pfeiffer is Alpha, right?
Yeah. And they're like, he's winning, And they all look down to see who I am because they have no idea who I am. I was a little kid, and I wave at them, and I never saw a group of guys get so serious in my life.
Yeah. And they didn't know. They couldn't.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. But I mean, I was a kid. I got to play on the track.
What kind of car was that?
They were rotating different cars every segment.
Every hit they give you a slower car.
Well, it wasn't slower. It was they had trucks. They had Can-Am cars. They had NASCARs. Oh, it was all over the place. So you just had to figure it out when you started driving. It was a great time. And nobody talked to my parents after that the rest of the weekend.
Those companies from the 80s and 90s, they're just great product stuff. It was very limited, and of course the resources on that time.
And a lot of cutthroat. I mean, we had that in HO. I mean, if BSRT, Slot Tech, and Wizzard, they did not like each other. They were fierce competitors. Mm-hmm. If you raced for one of them and you raced the other person's products, you got fired. You got there was a lot of stuff in the 80s and 90s in HO that was very...
Another thing that is very interesting to me is that the 124 scale companies never got mixed up with HO stuff.
No.
Like Coford never made anything.
Coford used to make stuff for us.
For HO?
Mm-hmm.
For you guys?
He originally made one of our custom line blanks. We used to use Coford comms.
But they never branded it as a Coford.
No. I just don't know. I mean, I think the reason why they didn't is just they were busy enough at the time in the 90s and stuff. It was booming. Everything was kind of booming in the 90s. And then we had some of the depressions. Like when the housing market crash happened, our sales cut 60% just instantly. And so right now is kind of a scary time.
You talk about the house market in 2008?
Yeah.
Or
just
early
like 2007, 2008. Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost 60% of our sales overnight, basically, it felt like.
Okay.
And kind of worried about it now because the housing market's all kind of erratic and the economy's erratic. And
well, they're not giving away credit. They were like they were doing before.
It's just we're like your disposable income. If I don't have extra money, I don't have to buy a car from you to go play. I can sit at home, and that's what ends up happening with a lot of these guys.
Yeah,
gas prices go up, and they don't want to travel to go somewhere. It's just
that's true.
It's the nature of the beast. And so we're always hoping for a good economy for slot cars, just because.
Yeah, maybe it's a bad wave coming after COVID because everybody,
it's just
everyone in the hobby industry.
You just got to be a little bit careful right now because you just don't know.
Everybody in the hobby industry kind of raise the stakes a bit.
Well, and COVID was actually fairly good for slot car racing because it was
Home
something you could
activity.
do in small groups.
Yeah.
You could play on the track and still have fun.
Did you guys feel any difference on sales during COVID?
I wouldn't say it was better, but it really didn't dip as much as we expected.
Okay.
Because
I heard
in your
that
basement...
I heard that the hobby industry grew 15% during COVID.
Hobby industry, though, is very vast.
Models
right?
and
the tabletop gaming stuff, guys painting stuff.
Yeah.
And
puzzles. Slot car puzzles.
Right. It didn't dip as much, and we were really happy about that because we were really worried about it. But I mean, what else are you going to do when you're stuck at home?
Yeah.
You got a track in your, with HO, you can put a track in your basement. 32nd scale, you can too.
But we're talking about the 80s brand, and I think something that we can share because we're almost the same age. Those brands in the 80s, I want to return that because that caused me an impact. Like the hobby was different because you need to go to a raceway. You don't have a 124 scale. You cannot race wing cars at home.
Right.
And then you have those massive brands. They're still strong today, but they made a huge impact, at least on me. To see Parma with this bright pink one, to see Cofor with the black and yellow, Alpha pushing the red ones. Like you have so many good brands, and people they can't brand like that anymore. Even I think it's missing even the aesthetics side. Like I can remember the brands from the 80s, but if I see the brands from today, it's just like a mix of colors and fonts. It's just like it's not.
It's the same thing rebranded, right?
No, not even that. It's just like looks bad. And if you go 20 years earlier to the 60s and you pick up the boxes and the packagings and the designs made by the drawings made by hand,
right.
You have the originals and you have this. I don't know. Maybe this is part of it. Like people say that the hobby is dying, which is something that I don't believe. But maybe it's just because you're not pushing as much as we're pushing in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
and 80s.
I think that's the difference. I think the difference is we don't have. I don't think it's dying yet. I think the scary part is without the exposure in. Toy and being able to buy something from Walmart or going somewhere and seeing a hobby shop and seeing just randomly walking in and seeing the cars race. How are people going to find out about it? And that's the hard part. I mean, unless you're into racing, we had guys that used to take ovals to NASCAR tracks, trailers and things like that. It was really good.
Do you think this is going to bring business?
Well, I mean,
we're gonna fish 2 or 3 people who are gonna be interested.
It brings exposure. If 100 people see it and one person races, that's good. Doesn't matter what scale. It's good for your hobby, my hobby. Because if they race one scale, there's a chance they're gonna go to another scale at some point.
Yeah.
Because it's just if they like it, they like it. If they're good at it, they're good at it.
Yeah. Well, we have the internet. We can show stuff over the internet, but it's not the same as experience.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, driving a car, watching a slot car race is very boring.
Yes, but at the same point that we can spread the message, and we can talk about slot car and slot car racing and how great this hobby is for us to a bunch of more people. It's hard to get one or two because they really need to see the thing happening. You need to try, and then you don't have the spaces to try it. And it's not everyone who wants to put like $200 in a set and have it home. And even if you put a $200 in a set and have it home, it's not the same experience to be in a raceway and share thoughts and,
the other thing is
try to tune the cars and talk to people.
You need and the other reason why I think kids will play with it, they like it, but you need the engineering kind of mindset of how do I make it go faster. Like a lot of kids it just doesn't work and throw the car to the side.
It was kind of scary because one thing that happened a month ago here, we have some rentals which are just loaners. Like if a kid comes in, we barely charge it. Like we're supposed to be charging. I hope my boss doesn't watch this, but we're supposed to charge like $20 an hour. We charge 10 if you have a group of 4. It's just to play something, so they try.
Because if they come back, you're making a lot more money.
And then I gave the car, which is the same color as the lane, and the controller which has the same color of the lane. So look, you just hook up. Is that direction, and you go for him. The track is on. And then I came back, and after 5 or 10 minutes, I came back to the track to see how the kid was doing. He couldn't connect the alligator clips. He couldn't figure out how to connect the controller, which is 3 colors. It's just like press it and connect it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and the kid was not like a 5-year-old. It was like 10, 11.
Yeah, I mean.
And of course, even if he had a good time,
you just assume they would know what they're,
Yeah, but it's basic. I don't know.
It's basic.
My parrot might be able to connect those three colors over there. But the thing is, if the kid that we have today is not even able to connect 3 alligator clips, he's never gonna think that, okay, look at this car. I can make it faster. Oh, maybe I can lower this. Maybe I can change the motor. It's not going to be even interesting to see, how many parts do we have to make this faster?
I have an extremely high competitive drive, and that's one reason why I don't race, because I try. If I really try, I put way too much effort into it. And you get upset when you lose, right? So I think a competitive drive has to be there, too. I think if that kid has competitive drive, he'll want to make the car faster. You may not know how, but sometimes all you got to do is ask questions. I mean, I hadn't touched a T-Jet until Rick gave me one at the Nationals that he first came to, and he gave me one and said, "Race this. I know you can drive." And I said, "Okay. How do I make it better?" He goes, "Just let me do that." And I was like, "But I'm asking you a question."
Yeah, tell me more about it. Yeah.
And so that kind of spawned a lot of our development. I learned how to build my T-Jets from him, side by side with him for 2 years, and it took me 2 years to be able to build a car as good as him. Mm-hmm. If you ask the right questions, anybody who is interested in racing, it's either because if they don't have a competitive drive, they're going to quit anyway.
Yeah.
If you're not trying over and over and you don't have that drive, so you need the engineering mindset, but you need the competitive drive. I think competitive drive is something that's also kind of disappearing right now. You see a lot of people just give up on things.
Yeah.
Because there's so many, and the internet's rough on that because there's so many different things you can do. Oh, I'm not good at that.
That's good.
I'm just going to go do this because I saw it looks cool. Well, okay, but
last race I was stacking cars, and 30 minutes before someone came to me with a broken wing, and they didn't have any glue or anything to do it, so I just put like a little piece of glue on. So just hold for 5 minutes, go ahead, that's fine. And then they came to, it was track was closed, and they bring the car to me with a ring broken and say, "Look, I'm not racing anymore." The guy was giving up because of a broken wing. Just put a piece of tape on it. And I literally put a piece of tape. "Oh, can I race?" "Yeah, you can race like that."
If you really want to, there's a will, there's a way, right? I mean, it's very frustrating for us because we have guys that race for 2 or 3 years in AHO. There was a guy who was a great driver, and he won a national championship, basically retired the next day.
Okay, good.
And I'm like,
the
really?
Nico Rosberg of slot
And I was
racing.
like, really? You raced 3 years, you became one of the best in the sport, and you're just done. Yep, he was done.
Okay.
I haven't seen him since.
He's trying UFC right now. He's trying different things.
I think he went on to race. He was racing. Water jet skis.
Okay, that's
doing,
good.
Yeah,
That's a guy who wants a challenge.
I'm like, okay, whatever, dude.
Okay,
I mean,
I conquered this. Let's move on.
I mean, he was, but there's a lot of guys that do that too. They think they peak to where they want to, and then they're like, I don't have to do it anymore. We have to find better, more creative ways to keep them interested longer, I think.
But that's another problem. I think the first problem is to try to find more people, and not only mean new people to the hobby. I mean like younger generations to get involved with this. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges.
You see a lot of grandparents bring their grandkids in, and the grandkids love it. Then the parents never bring them in.
Yes, but I also see a lot of grandparents bringing the kids just because of their likings.
Right. Well, yeah. But I mean, that's exposure. But the grandparents aren't gonna be able to do that forever. So I don't know what the answer is to making that for any one of us, because it's so hard to get people involved, like in person, because a lot of it's in basements. A lot of people aren't going to go to somebody's basement to play with a toy car.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, that sounds creepy.
Exactly.
That sounds like a future Netflix documentary.
Exactly. So
he invited me to play with slot cars in his basement.
So that's where the real rough patch comes in for us, because we almost need slot car raceways, but the economy just doesn't support. There's not enough profit for a shop, for a retailer.
Yeah.
Like if that's exclusively what they do is rent track time and sell parts.
No, of course not.
It's
Anywhere.
not even close, right?
Anywhere, yeah.
I mean, if you just have a little shop that's on the backside of a building and that's what you like doing, but
yeah, but that's kind of all around the world. Like I've been to Germany, and again, you say shop in the back of construction company or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they have here. There in Spain, I was just talking to a guy in Madrid. They have this very nice club with almost 40 people. They race twice a week, and it's just like a basement of a residential building. Used to be just like a warehouse, and they rent it out for cheap and put the track there.
right.
But it has been going for 20 years, and it's the only commercial available, not commercial, but available slot car track in the center of Madrid. So people are surviving, and with the Winter Second War, you have the plastic tracks. They're easy to set up and kind of cheap compared to the routed tracks. So people are kind of...
But there's usually one main person who loves doing it.
And probably paying for it.
And when he's done, then what happens?
Yes.
I mean, whether he passes away or whether he just decides he's had enough, and then we don't know.
Who's going to take care? Who's going to pay for the bills, actually.
Right.
But my problem is what we started talking to, like how we're going to expose more slot cars. And that's the reason that we have a track here. Like we need to show how good it is. Like we do once a year a Halloween party, which happens on the Saturday closest to the Halloween night, and we call it party and race and costume party. So the thing is, I open the track the whole night, and then I have a proper race, a team race, a 2-hour enduro, and I'm gonna use the people who are here just practicing and trying the track with loaners. So they're gonna be here for the party, and then we have food, popcorn, candy, music. The whole story it's no lights, only lights on the cars, and have smoke all around. But then they are seeing the people who are here trying the track. They are seeing a professional race.
Right.
We did the swap meet. We did the swap meet event 2 or 3 times, and we have the track open for whoever wants to come. So we have a bunch of new people coming to try. Some people come in the next week to get a car, and some people even start to race with us. But the thing is, on that event, if you're a person who never saw a slot car and comes and see that, it's just like crashing in people who don't know how to drive. So the Halloween is for that. Like there's people who are coming here for the first time, but they're seeing a professional race. Oh, how cool those guys are! They're fast. You can drive around. So that's my effort to try to bring new people. But again, it's very hard. There's one full generation that I cannot reach. Like I cannot get nobody here between 20 and 32.
I have the same.
33.
I mean, there are I'm going to say I don't even think it's a handful of HO racers. And it's usually because they're parent raced that are that age group.
Yeah.
I know Nick Canan, his dad races. Nick's in college, and he's one of the younger guys. There are, like, we have little local groups of a bunch of guys that are 35 that all started racing in a shop together, that they all loved it, and there's 8 of them, I think, that raced in this one shop, and they all still go to Hopper events, and they all still race. But it's an extremely active group.
Yeah.
And we just need to get, some groups like that. If you get small groups like that form in different areas, it's great because, they bring in their friends and things like that. But it's the younger kids, it's mostly father-son stuff because their father dragged them to it and they got into it.
And then the kid goes high school, college.
You usually lose them at 17 or so until they're 25 to 30.
And then they get
and
married.
Then they start, you got cars, girls, and kids, and then
cars and kids, and then comes back looking for another activity.
He wants to get out of the house, and he's like, where can I go? Oh, I used to do this. I can go do that. And I'm sure it's just a bunch of dudes hanging out racing slot cars.
Yeah, and they might meet the same people that they were racing when they were teenagers.
Because we've had many. We used to put an effort on anybody who was under 18 that was interested in professionally racing at the professional level. We would just sponsor them and give them parts and cars because we wanted to keep them racing. And even with free parts, they would disappear.
Yeah.
They all appreciate what you did for them, but cars, girls, kids.
Yeah. Before we finish this, let's come back half an hour. So, mid-'80s. Bobby was there doing parts for free. Your mom came along. Look, you should sell those things.
Right.
So he starts this company, maybe making mainly front axles.
Yeah, front axles and rims. Yeah.
What happened after that?
I was very young.
Okay.
It just turned into. It was just a couple parts. It was one part, and then it turned into 4 or 5 things, and just slowly grew over time. A lot of the stuff we made in-house, and then, we started getting suppliers that could do some of the other stuff, which is good and bad, obviously. And, we had, it just slowly grew. I think she still has some catalogs from back then that are, half a sheet of paper, and that was what we sold.
Yeah.
And then it's turned into, at one point, I think we had 7,000 products. Different products.
7,000 products?
At one point, yeah. We've downsized since then because a lot of the stuff was unnecessary, really.
And then were you selling to Raceways or just straight?
And when I was growing up, it didn't matter if our phone rang. It was a home business, and if our phone rang at 2 a.m, my dad would pick it up.
Okay.
And just keep it going. And that was one thing he did. If your phone rang, he was all about customer service and just talking. He'd talk to anybody about anything. That's how he got. He got some cars pulled from Tomy, and cleared. There are 4 clear chassis in the world, 4 clear Super G Pluses. I don't know what they're worth because they never sell. Dad sold his years ago because he just didn't care too much. But there's 4 of them in the world. I don't even know where they are. And but he worked with all because He used to work with Tyco, Tomy, just because, it was part of the business. You want the business to grow. And then when Tyco and Mattel dropped all their stuff, I think Tomy dropped before them. And then Tyco and Mattel dropped their stuff. And then Lifelike got bought by Walters. And that was basically the end of the mainstream hobby.
And then AFX came back.
AFX has come back, but they're just producing cars. They still do have some tracks, but they're not in the hobby shops. They're not producing on that scale to where they can sell to where you're going to get exposure.
Okay.
Which we're glad they're back, but you kind of hope that somehow or another somebody
when a giant comes back, supposed to be performance driven at least.
Right. And AFX is AFX and Tomy were kind of hand in hand, and
So who else is making precision parts like you? I know about Viper, right?
Viper does.
Is Viper one of your?
They're just a competitor. Yeah. BSRT.
So my pause was just I was looking for the word.
So BSRT is we're not sure if what their plan is. He's retirement age. Doesn't seem like he's come out with anything new in a long time. We're just not. He's just real quiet.
Mm-hmm. And you took over the business.
Yeah, I pretty much run most of the stuff there. I do all the R&D, all the blueprinting.
And is Bob involved with it?
No, he's pretty much
just thumbs up.
Well, the one thing that gets him going is when I go to him with research and I bounce ideas off of him. They can be terrible ideas, but if I just bring him a terrible idea and go, hey, if I can do this, if we can somehow make this work, sometimes he comes up with some crazy things, and sometimes it works. Like our traction magnet and our Fusion slot car was his design, 100%. Never would have thought it would work. He said, he came to me one morning. I had a magnetic software program where I could emulate all this magnet data, and he said, hey, and he just drew me the magnet. He says, just put that in your program. It's going to work. And I said, no, it's not. He goes, it's going to work.
How old is he now?
I said, okay. I looked at the data and went, okay, it works. It works better than anything else I have.
How old is he now?
He is 70. He's 72.
Okay.
He's 72. Yeah,
And is it still a home business, or you guys have like a factory?
It's on the premises. Where we used to live is still the business, and now we have a house on the premises as well. Which that business.
And is everything manufactured there, or you guys have other vendors around?
We manufacture a lot of the precision stuff there.
Okay.
There's other stuff we get made elsewhere, just because I don't have enough screw machines to run some of the stuff we need. But
I can find your products in Raceways. Or
the 2 or 3 that exist, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we will sell to most vendors. I mean, there's a shop in Florida that's changed hands 3 or 4 times. They're just starting back up. I mean, there's Peter Lentros has stuff. Lucky Bob. I'm trying to think. There's
Did you meet Lucky Bob?
Bob's a good guy. You just gotta
I've been smelling his exit flux for so many years now that I need to.
I mean, Bob, you'd be amazed at what Bob can do where he is. I mean, he's on top of everything. He's really into racing.
So he has a retail store.
Oh yeah,
open to the public.
Yeah, he's got 2 or 3. He's got two to three smallish 24 scale tracks.
And that's in Florida, right?
No, he's in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
The Raceway.biz is in. I don't know if that's what it's called. That's what it was called. Is in Florida, and they weren't really that big. And they were there. And they've been on and off. I'm trying to think if there's any other shops that are large scale. There's really just not a lot of shops anymore, and that's kind of one of the things we've run into. There's a lot of clubs that have a shop, quote unquote, but they're not really they're not really trying to draw people.
Well, those clubs, even if you're selling at a discount, you're helping the hobby, so it's not a bad deal as long as they're not reselling on eBay or stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we do get some guys who say they're buying for a club and they buy enough stuff for one guy, and you're like,
A couple months ago, we started here at Electric Dreams to distribute slot.it. I don't know if you're familiar with slot.it's one of the 132nd giants from Italy. And the first order that I got, it was like one of each. 1 gear, 1 car, 1 six. Come on, that's not going to happen. So, yeah, it's.
I've learned a lot about 30 seconds just because since Rick started racing. Yeah. There's things that go from our T-jets to 30-second scale that translate, and I'm like.
According to him, he cannot see the HO anymore, so he's moving to one.
Sure, he can't see him, but I don't think he had a fall off in the Hopper Nationals main. So, in 20 minutes of driving, I don't think he had one fall off. And that's the only reason why I wonder he won the race by less than a lap and didn't fall off, and the rest of us did. But still, that's what won him the race. So if he can't see him, he can still drive him.
Okay, that's good. Good to know. But RC, thank you very much for coming here. I definitely need to learn more about HO. That was kind of a masterclass. Kind of now trying to figure out.
And Rick has a track now.
Yeah,
you can go to Rick's once he gets it set up.
Went to Phoenix to pick it up.
Oh yeah.
We need to start the track here. I'm trying to find more space. We definitely. It's my interest in for HO started 6 months ago, maybe, when somebody called here and they want to sell a collection of vintage HOs. And I went there. I didn't know nothing about it. She gave me a price. I kind of paid for it. Like I hassled like $200. And then I invited Mark Natividad. I don't know if you know him.
I've heard his name before.
Yeah, Mark. He knows everything about the history of HO stuff. So he came with books and stuff, and we stayed working for almost a full weekend here. Mm-hmm. And turns out it was much more valuable than what I paid. It was kind of. I feel
it's a good deal for you.
It's a good deal, but I feel bad because I really didn't know what I was buying, and she didn't know what if she was selling it, and I have to hire someone to come here and kind of evaluate. And then I start to understand that, and then we start to carry FX. We start to carry Viper now, and now we need to start to carry Wizzard.
Another person that you should probably try to meet is Bob Beers. Bob Beers is one of the guys who knows the history of everything Aurora. And he does a lot of collectible stuff. I mean, I'm not really into collecting. I've always been into
Yeah.
racing. I don't know. It's just somebody's like, yeah, you should collect those. I'm like, no, just sell it.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
like, why? I'm like, because I don't want to hold on to something
Yeah,
for
just
50
like me.
years.
I have like 12 132nd scale cars. They all race cars, and that's it.
I mean, but he's a guy that he travels the country usually once a year, and when he does, like he was out in California a couple of years ago. I don't know if he's traveling as much with COVID and all that stuff, but he's a good person to just. It'd be good to have on an interview. He'd probably show you all kinds of stuff. I mean, he usually travels with a collection and everything else. Like, I mean, that's what he does. So. And he travels around looking at people's collections and offering, buy stuff from people. It's pretty crazy what he does.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah. And he's really, he really knows a lot of the history of the stuff.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. I know that you're here for Rick's wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Like the 4 people. According to him, it's only 4 people invited.
I think it's only 3 of us. I think there's only 3 of us showing up.
Have a good time. And if you're okay on Sunday morning, let me know. And then I figure out a way to bring you to the museum, because that's a place that you cannot miss.
I will definitely try.
Thank you very much,
man. Thank you.